Because when you look at who you are, if you created this social media identity, well, I'm this, and you're trying to work from there, well, it's not going to work because you're not even working with what you actually have. You're not playing the cards that are actually in your hand. You're beginning to believe you're a lie, right? And so what I think about when I think about stuff like this is the concept of egregores. An egregore, to not make it too complicated, is the idea of believing in something or having a thought that's so intense that it becomes personified. It's like taking your anger and making it an angel, like you said, a spirit or a being that now tells you, like, oh, well, my anger made me do it. Yeah, you created an egregore out of your anger. You personified your anger so much so that you no longer have control of yourself. You're possessed by the spirit of anger. Now we could argue whether or not there's a demon or something that's for anger and that's what gets a hold of you, or whether or not it's just the aspect of yourself that you've lost control of or that you've ignored for so long that it's beginning to control your subconscious mind just from lack of attentiveness. You're just not, you're letting it run loose in your mind and you're not actively managing it, so you lose track of it. So a lot of times I think with social media we create a picture version of ourselves, like a mask, like people say. And that mask becomes how we try to navigate the society. And then when we step out in the real world and we talk to real people that aren't aware of that mask, we have a hard time communicating, especially in the youth. You see it all the time with these kids that are like, you talk to them, and the first thing they do is bring up, well, I'm this on social media, or I'm an influencer, and I do this, that, or the third. Okay, but in real life, what do? Like every day, not just when you post or when you have something to post. And if you post every day, cool. But have you really created a thing where you're authentic about your lifestyle, or are you fabricating most of it because you want to stay popular or you want to stay up with the trends? I think when we're moving forward, what we see with social media, you can see it now. Like there's a lot of depression. There's a lot of people that aren't happy with themselves, don't view themselves a certain way because they're viewing themselves from the lens of social media and letting that determine their relevance instead of actually looking at the value that they bring to real people and real lives around them on a day to day.
Absolutely. There's another American psychologist named Carl Rogers who thought of the psyche in terms of, put it like this. He thought that one of the major sources of psychological distress, let's call it anxiety, came from an inauthenticity, incongruity. That's a better word. An incongruence. And so this is how he framed it. You're navigating the world and you have these experiences, and those experiences eventually trigger, for lack of a better term, emotions. And from those emotions, you have thoughts, and then you can communicate those thoughts to other people. And he would say that to the degree that there is a separation or a disjointing between these different levels, you are psychologically vulnerable. You're vulnerable to anxiety and distress because I, I guess because there's a lack of solidity there. There's more entropy perhaps in the system. There's a lack of organization and stability there. And one of the things that he would do in therapy a lot is embody authenticity essentially in himself to try to get his clients to imitate that and to learn that, if his clients said something weird or disturbing, oftentimes he would say, so you just said X, Y, and Z. That made me feel a little disgusted or disturbed or something. Could you help me explore maybe why I perceived you as that? And so he would be very genuine in his reactions, but through talking it out with the other person, hopefully, uh, so the theory went, the client would learn to do that for themselves as well. And so, yeah, social media to, in many senses, just amplifies, I guess, the amount of incongruence that we can have.
Yeah, and I think like going back to the architecture of sovereignty is a reason. Like when you get into how I built it, it's almost like a house. There's a foundation, and then there's three pillars on top. Like so, there's a house, and then there's a roof. Like understanding that physically you are one thing, and spiritually you are another. there's a space in between there. And if you overly lean into the spiritual side of it, there's a result of what they call spiritual bypassing, where it's like, okay, so you have completely removed yourself from physical reality. And so you're living off of a set of rules that don't matter in physical reality. So you're thinking about the world in a way that's incongruent with your actual environment, in short.